Hey there, thanks for watching. This is the Well-Behaved Wallet, where we talk about mindset, motivation, and making or saving money. I believe that your wallet is a window to your world, and my mission is to help you feel good about your finances. I was motivated to make this video because of some comments that I was seeing on previous videos. People were saying that they felt overwhelmed and out of control and didn't know how to budget because their income was so much lower than their bills and their expenses. And this could be for a number of reasons. They could have just lost a job, they could have unexpected expenses come up, and then just good old lifestyle creep happens and you all of a sudden turn around and it's like your expenses are way up here and your income's still down here. You're like, how did this happen? So I'm making this video because I feel like this is such an important topic. And I actually have something to say on this because I have been in this position. And you know what? It is not, there's no shame in being there. And we have a lot more power than we think we do, which is why I'm calling this video Planning as Power, How to Budget When Your Bills Are Bigger Than Your Income. Because again, we have more power than we think we do. Drowning is not an option. This is not your path. So stick around and I'm going to share some basic steps with you that will help you feel like you are on more solid ground. First of all, I just want to say again that none of this is any cause for shame. I feel like people get stuck in this cycle of guilt and regret and beating themselves up, and that actually keeps you stuck where you are rather than allowing you to face the reality and the details of your situation with a sense of calm and peace and serenity. So I know this because I have felt this before. I would make these purchases and feel like I know that I can't afford them, but I do that anyway, and I would do it anyway, and then I would just, instead of facing the reality of it and making adjustments as necessary, I would beat myself up. And that was just a way for me to avoid facing the details of the situation. I don't know if you can relate, but it's really easy to get stuck in that cycle of beating yourself up, but without realizing that it's really just a means to allow you to stay where you are. It's also the means that keeps you stuck where you are. So my goal is to help you overcome that block, whatever it would be, and allow you to face your situation from a place of peace and calm. And that's where I feel like this idea of making a plan really gives you that peace in order to address your situation and make a plan of action from, again, a place of peace and calm and serenity, knowing that no matter what your situation is, making a plan will help you face it. So here are my tips for coming from a place of power in budgeting when your bills are bigger than your income. This is a preliminary step, and then we'll get into the ABCs. But this preliminary step is really important. Don't skip it. So the preliminary step is this: forgive yourself for all past mistakes. It's small, but it really is important. It's like saying to yourself, you know what? You did your best. Move on. Did you make some mistakes? Sure. We're going to move on. We're going to draw a line under it and move forward from this place of power because, again, you have more than you think you do. Trust me. So these are the ABCDs that I'm going to suggest for dealing with your budget, again, when your bills are bigger than what you're making. Number one, assess and analyze. Know where you stand. And sometimes this can be the biggest challenge because you don't like where you stand, right? Like, it's uncomfortable. You don't want to know that your income is so much lower than your expenses at the moment. Like, it's uncomfortable. It's not pleasant. But this is the only way you're going to move forward, is to take a cold, hard, clear-eyed look at what you're bringing in and what your expenses are. So I call them the 5 no's. Know your income, know your expenses, know your debt load that you're carrying. Stop going further into debt. Know your assets, and then know why you are where you are. What brought you here? And again, these could be a variety of things that may or may not be under your control. You have an income, like a job loss, or you've had unexpected expenses. Maybe your housing went up, maybe your housing went down. Maybe you had some emotional strain, and that is absolutely a reason for why you may be where you are. It's not necessarily something that you have to keep doing. Please don't keep doing it if your emotional strain has caused you to go into debt. Seek help and try to avoid doing that and aim to avoid doing that in future. But you can move beyond this. So those are the 5 no's. I'll say them again and I'll leave them down below. Know your income, know your expenses, know your debt load, stop going further into debt, know your assets, and then know why you are where you are. So that's the A, assess and analyze. B is break the cycle and break it down. So break the cycle. That's stop going further into debt. I'll say it again. Do not go $1 further into debt. If you have to go to a soup kitchen or do whatever you need to do not go further into debt. Break it down. Make a list in order of priority. So rank your expenses. Now you know your income and you know your expenses. Reorder those expenses in order of most important to least important. Now Dave Ramsey talks about this a lot. You might know that I consider myself Dave Ramsey inspired, not necessarily Dave Ramsey compliant, because especially in the area of an emergency fund, I do not believe $1,000 is enough for anyone, if that's all you're going to do before you start throwing money at debt. And I do believe that interest rate matters. So these are the two areas where Dave Ramsey and I differ. I also think that he can be a little bit harsh at times, and hey, that's what makes him popular. I just don't think that necessarily that's the best approach for everyone. Then again, I am very much Dave Ramsey inspired, and I feel like he's got it right in this area. You break it down in order of priority. He says, a roof over your head, lights, water, gas, electric, housing, food in your belly, and then for me, that's transportation. So those 4 expenses are super important, and that's really what you need to get started. So if you're watching this video in a place where you have a roof over your head and you have some food in the fridge, then you're doing better than 90% of the population of the world at this point. So this is also a place to realize that you might be doing better than you think. Give yourself some credit. So C is cut what you can. Once you've ordered your expenses in order from most important to least important, start dealing with those things at the bottom and say, hey, what of those things can you cut or take care of or perhaps delay? Now, this is really important because on that topic of C, cut what you can, you also must communicate. So communicate with these creditors or these people that you have these expenses with. So for example, a big one for me is, and used to be and still is at times, is lawn care. Because it's seasonal and it always seems to catch me off guard. What I do is I have this I work out a deal with my lawn care provider who's super chill and he's very informal. So he'll come and he'll cut the grass in the summer and then I can sort of pay it off over time. It's not ideal, but hey, it works for me right now because my housing situation is what it is. So that's one way that you can address it. But the idea is address it, right? Don't just let it sit and pile up, because that one thing that you're not addressing starts to take on more emotional weight than it should. And the act of not addressing it, the act of avoiding it, actually starts to be more work than it would be to just address it. So communicate. C is also cut what you can and communicate with those people. So the last item number 4, letter D, is deal with it. Deal with your creditors, deal with your debt collectors, deal with those people that are hounding you. So, and this can be kind of tricky with the whole Fair Debt Correction Practice, collection act that went into effect. There are rules about when they can and cannot call you if you are being harassed by bill collectors. And this is where communication comes in handy, because rather than just letting it go, it's important that you know for yourself what you're going to address in this moment and what you are not going to address. This is where the idea of making a plan really does give you more power, because who's in charge of your money here? Those debt collectors? No, you're in charge of your money and you get to say where it goes. And you say that it goes to the most important things first. That housing, food, lights, water, and transportation, those 4 expenses are the most important things. And you're going to take care of yourself with that money. Now that doesn't mean that you get to go out and buy, an expensive new car, put down a payment on that, or some new shoes. That money goes toward essentials. If your income is smaller than your bills, if your bills are bigger than your income, you take care of yourself and your basic necessities first before you deal with any creditors. You have your plan and you stick to your plan, and then they can either choose to get on their plan or go do something else with themselves. But you got a plan and you're going to follow it. And I've found personally that if you communicate that plan to anyone that might be asking you for money and they know that you have a plan, just the fact that you have a plan makes them say, okay, this person has a plan. They're clearly on their way. Let me work with them. They will be vastly more willing to work with you if they know that you have a plan. Because if you have a plan, you're going places. Let me say that again. A plan will get you places. So this is something you can do, again, that will give you the power to say, I'm not staying here. I'm going somewhere better. So these are my ABCDs for planning from a place of power when your bills are bigger than your income. I hope this has made you feel empowered, because you should be. Who tells your money where to go? You do. Every single dollar is a freedom fighter working for you. So be a good leader of your freedom fighters and help put them to the very best use that they can be put to. So I thank you again for watching, and I hope that you will keep watching. Bye.